Wednesday. You are on the Heart of Success show, and I'm your host, Larissa Vakulina. I go live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. South Australian time zone. And here on this show, I'm sharing with you different tips, methods, tools, techniques, inspiration, and motivation. How can you create success in all areas of your life? And if you know and remember that month is a highlighted month for the International Women's Day, and I decided to highlight and feature amazing, powerful women on my show. And today I have an amazing Lily Allen-Duenas. Sorry. She is an amazing person. She combined a number of different skills that are mind-blowing in terms of the help of for people to create space for self-care, some peace and balance, some harmony and coherence in their life so that they can achieve success in all different endeavors. So I just would like to formally name and list what her expertise and skills are. So Lily is an international yoga and meditation teacher. She's a vegan nutritionist and holistic health and wellness coach. She helps overwhelmed individuals reduce their emotional overload and find balance, breath, and space for self-care. Lily is the founder of Wild Yoga Tribe and is the host of the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. So her journey led her to a life of flexibility, fluidity, and has fostered a vast reservoir for compassion, curiosity, and creativity. And that's really what we all need to start to create in our life in order for us to actually not only survive in this epochal change and transformation that we're going through, but also thrive and help others to live healthy, creative, joyful, happy life. So, Lily, I really would like to say thank you for accepting my invitation to be on my show today. And I would like to just give the floor to you and explain how did you started to realize, or how did you get awareness that you would like to live a life of balance and fluidity and flexibility? Because I know we all have stories behind us, and I really would like to hear your story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction, and I'm excited to be here with you and with all your listeners. And so for me, I actually started meditating first, and that was when I was 11 years old or 10. It was very young. My parents weren't Buddhist. My parents didn't meditate. It was not anything that had come.
Sorry, I want to highlight you. That's why I want to press that now. That one here, I think. Is that one? All right, that's okay. You could keep talking. That's
way.
Yeah,
So I started meditating very young. I had the opportunity to learn meditation at a YMCA outdoor summer camp for a week. I took classes and I just had such an amazing time learning, and it just felt so natural and like something my mind really needed. Because even at that young age, I just knew my mind moved so fast. I didn't know I had, anxiety or anything growing up. It was a generation before we really said that. But I just felt so fast in my mind. So I knew I needed something to help me slow it down.
That's amazing. At 11 years old, you started to meditate. That's just, very, I guess maybe, a new generation do that. But at the same time, at that young age, to be able to sit for meditation, that's kind of really, very cool.
Yeah, thank you. And I think just seeking it out, like wanting to learn that, and then also wanting to practice that just totally by myself after that week-long class was really, I don't know, it just always called to me. It just felt like something I knew I needed. And then when I was 16, a soccer player on my team, a soccer teammate, she asked me, do you want to go to this new yoga class thing that's offered at the gym? We had no idea what this was. And for your listeners who maybe are younger, they will think, oh, how did you not know what yoga was? But this wasn't a thing until like the mid 80s. And that was only in Hollywood and the
Yes,
starlets. And
yes.
so in then the 90s time period, it wasn't popular, wasn't really something that everybody knew about.
Mhm.
And so then when I had the opportunity to take the class, within 5 minutes, I just knew, oh,
This is some,
this is it. You know, you
yeah,
can feel it. You can feel how
yeah.
just it aligns and it resonates and everything slows down. And so I felt like I was doing something that my body was remembering.
Mm-hmm,
So it was
mm-hmm,
beautiful. And then I went to college and I got a degree and then worked in marketing for 7 years, got burned out. Also, your listeners maybe remember a time when there wasn't a word for burnout. That didn't exist, right? We didn't say that. But I
yes.
felt like a campfire that had
Mm-hmm,
one log, another log, another log, another log, another log until the fire was dying. So that's how I would describe it to my friends, which is literal burnout. Like the metaphor I was came up with organically, um,
mm-hmm,
15 or 10 years ago, whatever it was being burned out. And that's how
mm-hmm,
I felt. And so I took a year of just really asking my heart and in Shavasana, really asking that question, what am I supposed to do?
mm-hmm,
How am I supposed to serve? What am I supposed to give? And after a year, this just inner voice just was so loud and resonant and clear. Help others on their path of wellness and wholeness. And being a yoga
mm-hmm,
teacher was the way that I saw my path forming. So after
mm-hmm,
that, I heard that voice. It took me like 2 weeks to get a month sabbatical approved from work, to have a plane ticket booked to Nepal, to Kathmandu, to have my place held, my deposit paid at a yoga teacher training. So boom, 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 boom. And then
yeah.
I went, and then of course, within 5 minutes of being there, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to stay. I'm supposed to
Right.
keep doing this. So came
Mhm,
back, packed up everything or sold things, and then quit my job, and then started traveling as a traveling yoga teacher all across Asia and Europe, and
mhm,
as well as doing more trainings, more certifications, because I knew
mhm.
my path as a student
Yeah,
nowhere close to being over.
I was just reading your certification. It's an endless list of, 150, 180 hours there and here and all this certification. And it's amazing. You see, guys, it's like, it amazes me how we start to learn how to hear our bodies, how to hear this inner consciousness that the mind is interpreting in the inner voice, right? And that's great that you not only listening but you hearing it and actually trusting it, right? So case after case, like guest after guest, I am hearing stories about how we go with all our logical mind, and we go and do things and then we collapse, and then we burn out, or we get into depression or anxiety or panic attacks, and we start to then reassess, why would we just keep doing what is not giving us any joy or even energy, right? So, and at very young age, you already been hearing your your soul, your system, your energy consciousness system, right? And so amazing. And again, with the world that we live in, with such a extreme kind of swinging in one emotional reaction to another emotional reaction, and it is really hard and difficult to ground and be centered. And um, I just can see it and feel in you how grounded and so centered you are, and how you can teach others to do the same. It's amazing. And I know you created an amazing community, and the Wild Yoga Tribe. So that's probably come a bit later. So I don't want to interrupt your story. So you've been traveling and doing some things and teaching and also exploring the world. And what's happened next? You get your certifications and course after course after course. And so how did you come up with the idea to create a tribe, a community?
Yeah, so I think from the very beginning, so when I got certified, I knew that a lot of yoga teachers create YouTube channels or websites
Yeah,
called Yoga with, and then their name, Yoga with Lily, Yoga with
yeah,
Cassandra, Yoga with Adrienne. And I just knew I didn't want to
yeah.
it to be all about me. Like that's my energy and like my calling is not to project myself into the world. I know I'm
Mhm.
doing this now, like spotlighted on your podcast as me, but my energy and calling is to draw energy and shine light on other people. And
Mhm.
so I knew I wanted to always have a community being built and to always continue to involve and
Mhm.
help educate or learn from other yoga teachers. And so when I
Mhm.
started traveling, I met yoga teachers and studied with or studied from or under all these different adjectives, but I studied
Mhm.
with, alongside, and under yoga teachers from all around the world. And like my
Mhm.
best friend in my training in Nepal, she was from Egypt. And I've gone to
Mhm.
Egypt twice to visit her and to,
Wow.
she leads tons of
Yeah.
yoga retreats there, and we're dreaming of leading one together. So stay tuned,
Mhm.
listeners.
Yes.
And another good friend was from France, and a great friend from Spain. And so just having this huge international focus. So then
Mhm.
when the pandemic hit, I could no longer travel and teach
Mhm.
like I was before.
Mhm.
I was stateside. I was in the California. I was teaching yoga at a winery in Napa Valley, projecting that on the computer virtually to their membership, as well
All
as
right.
doing weekly YouTube classes, Zoom classes,
Mhm.
as much online offerings as I could. And then I was able to make it to France to be with my husband. And that we were living in France for a little under 2 years again, it was still pandemic time. Things were
Mhm.
very strict there. Everything was closed. There was not
Mhm.
options for me to do things live. But what I really missed, one of the things I missed the most was still connecting with yoga teachers
Mhm.
from around the world and having those conversations and having the opportunity to learn and to
Mhm.
grow and to understand and to be curious and learn new things and be surprised. And so
Mhm.
I kind of through who knows how the universe worked this out, but I became the interim executive director for a global women's nonprofit. And one of the main initiatives was this podcasting platform for women who are podcasters in third world countries, as well as second and first world. But there was a large focus on educational
Mhm.
opportunities in third world countries for
Mhm.
podcasting. And I'd never been into podcasting personally. I'd listened to them, but never was involved. And as I
Mhm.
became involved, and my heart started just missing and calling
Mhm.
out for conversations and connections
Mhm.
with the global yoga community, I thought,
Mhm.
oh, I
Yeah.
can do that. Like that can
Yeah.
be something I do. I facilitate. I can
Alright.
cultivate that container. And
Mhm.
so the podcast started out with interviewing people I knew that I had, met on my path from different countries. And then it slowly became very apparent that I wanted to interview one yoga teacher from every country around the world. That's my
Wow,
goal. That's
that's
my
a
mission.
really
So I'm
very awesome.
70
Yes, very awesome.
77 countries, 77 yoga teachers, 77 episodes. That's where I'm at today. But I
Wow.
am just so grateful and excited about it.
That's amazing, amazing project, and of course connecting different countries. And it's like not only there is a focus on yoga and all your common knowledge about the all the energy consciousness and body of the people, but also this is the unity. And that's what I like, because we really all need to build the unity. And I also been reading through your profile that you have these interesting concepts like beyond the asana, beyond the asana, the philosophy and psychology of yoga boundary setting. So is this, and also you describing a lot of things beyond the yoga. It's not only on a mat. It's like this is the much wider and much more deeper concept that you are exploring, and you helping people with this, not only just being on a mat, but that's much more I would say, creative approach to yoga, and how does that affect, say, very busy entrepreneurs or people in business? And that's my next question, because I used to be one of these entrepreneurs that been doing the success race, right? And of course, that was a painful experience. I used to go to yoga, and I've been myself participating probably for about 2 or 3 years, very full on, 4 days a week. I was on yoga mat, and I just recall how it is, on one hand, it is a very big challenge. On another hand, it is such a practice that really opens up something that I never knew I had within myself. There's a spaciousness. There's all of this. It's like this. It takes you from that space of riding, running that success race, into the space of wider, more time. I would say it's like that completely different transformation from being all over the place, and have that oneness, but also expansion. So I don't know how to describe. I don't even have the language, because I love yoga so much. Unfortunately, right now at this stage of my life, I don't have so many times to have a chance to do yoga. But I actually have a property right now, which is 89 acres of land, and I have a wellness center here, where I have the yoga teacher come in here and teach once a week. I don't even have the chance to jump on it. So he brings the students, and I have the facilitation. So yeah, I need to fire up again my motivation for yoga. I know how amazing it is and brings so much. So how do you approach business people? How do you have this concept to involve them into that yoga philosophy space?
Yeah, great question. So, business people, all I know, are so busy. I mean, I worked in marketing management, and I've been an interim executive director for a global women's nonprofit. Like, I have my own business. I know how hard it is. And so I think meeting them where they are, because I know you don't always have an hour.
No.
I mean, that's not realistic every day, or 2 times a week, that once a week. It's an hour doesn't always feel possible. But do you
Yeah.
have 5 minutes? Do you have 1 minute? Like, what do you have to give, and how can I meet you in that space? So
Yeah.
I love offering, private classes. If you want it to book 30 minutes, an hour, great. But if you would rather do more of a coaching style, where we work on actual techniques that you can implement at 5-minute or 1-minute intervals throughout your day or your week, that's awesome. You can have so much amazing benefits in your hormones, in your
Absolutely.
muscles, in your
Mm.
digestion. Like, everything's all connected. I know you know that, Larissa. I'm sure your listeners know it too. But if we're able to deregulate your nervous system, which can be achieved in a minute or less, if we
Mhm.
can do that, then your cortisol levels will drop. Your body's able to actually process and digest your food, do more opportunistic functions like
Yeah.
digestion and reproduction or memory storage. Your memory will improve. And so I'm
Yeah.
saying these things, but are they true? Do you believe me? If you
Mm.
don't believe me, I love telling business people, Google it, or providing them with PDFs of evidence of actual scientific, and I'm not talking about some woo-woo doctor on some woo-woo site, which I
Yeah.
love the woo-woo. I mean, no at all shame on the woo-woo, but if you need to see something from the National Center of Biotechnology Information Database, you need to see something from the CDC, if there's something you need, I'm sure there's a body of research and evidence to prove
Yeah.
the effects of
Yeah.
deep breathing, of
Mhm.
tapping, of
Yeah.
stretching, of being more mindful, of
Mhm.
meditating. And yoga, as you mentioned, Larissa, it's not just that time on the mat. So
Yeah.
you're not just stretching your body for an hour, 30
Mhm.
minutes. That's not just yoga. That's the yoga asana, the practice
Yeah.
of physical poses. But these elements of yoga, deep breathing, tapping, meditating, there's all
Mhm.
these layers. There's technically 8 limbs of yoga. And we say
Mhm.
limbs like they're branches of a tree. Yoga is this unifying, and this asana, these poses that you
Mhm.
see on Instagram, that's just one branch out of 8. So it's good to learn that there's other tips. And as you said, you don't always have time to show up for 1 hour to go to the class that the teacher teaches on your property, but I'm sure you are practicing yoga in other ways. I'm sure that you are doing self-study, svadhyaya, which is, and that internal awareness, a little time for silence, for Mona, some little time to explore your inner landscape. I'm sure even 5 minutes in your shower.
I mean, we all getting into it, like, because we ride in the wave of life, right? And we kind of um, choosing what really works for us, what resonates for us. And of course, there was a time where I was just needed the yoga, and I needed it a lot, and I needed it intensive, and so and I did. But then there is a time where I get into a different types of practices, as you said, like uh, and that's, I think it's all really connected. But sometimes I miss yoga. I miss just that physical stretch and things. And I do every morning. I do my little stretches, and I do my little centering and all this, the hara practice, wherever you have there, and also some little ancient little exercises, the breathing, like, you put your fingers there and you breathe, you hold the breathing, so that's kind of resetting your system.
Yeah,
So
thyroid says thank you,
yeah,
right? Yay.
we found these little tips that really works for us. But it's what I like about your philosophy is like that fluidity, that flexibility, because we're not stuck in one kind of concept, like, you go on a mat, you do this, and that's really going to give you a benefit. It's really about finding your own practice that really will help you. And that's what I see you are really an expert about. You can show and assist the person to find the right practice for them, and this is really amazing. Guys, really, again, Lily is a powerful international yoga teacher. She travels a lot, she meets a lot of people, she connects all the yoga teachers. Now she's got this amazing project, amazing, just mind-blowing, podcasting with at least one teacher from each country. That's an amazing concept. So I would like to continue, and I know I read amazing things here from your uh, you know yeah, there's very interesting points that you having, and you sharing with your clients, how, like, for example, bust the meditation myth. I know how meditation is really kind of started to be popular, and it is a lot of buzz about meditation in the corporate world. There's a lot of things happening, and of course the world is changing, and we are changing. We're going through this quantum transformation, which is affecting our physical bodies, really our physiology. But meditation is something that, of course, we all, I feel like we all need it in different forms. But how do you bust the myth of meditation? It's like,
Oh, I could talk about that for hours. I do workshops on meditation and on going a little deeper, or on total beginner level as well. So it's one of my biggest passions is that people think meditation is something, right? They have this idea of what it is. They think maybe it's sitting cross-legged and feeling at peace.
Mhm.
That is meditation.
Right, that's it.
No.
No, no.
Meditation is not comfortable. I mean, in the physical body, you'll feel pain, you'll feel
Yes.
discomfort arising. And then also in the mind, our human mind doesn't want to
Yeah.
meditate and be quiet
Yeah.
and still. It's not that interesting, right? It wants to be entertained. And if it's not entertained by our phones, which we're now addicted to constant
Absolutely.
stimulation, right? Our
Yeah.
attention spans have decreased, science says, from what was it, 13 seconds to 8 seconds, Larissa, something like that.
Yeah. It's the findings are shocking. So the attention span right now is decreasing dramatically because through all of these social psychological operations, I would say, that we are now all have around us in the form of the technology, and it's just changing so fast that our attention span is basically seconds right now, and we not like, especially young people, we it doesn't really give it's like, I don't know, it's like a drug, and get that really very fast reaction and adrenaline rising, and then it drops, and you need another dose and another dose. That's really dangerous in my opinion, and that's where people like you comes, and that's another story, right?
Yeah, exactly. And since the attention spans are decreasing, if we think about how uncomfortable it is to sit at in line at a store or in our car in traffic or at a doctor's office, if it's even just a 5-minute wait,
Mhm.
we're going to pick up our phone. We're going to look for distraction, or we used to turn and try to talk to someone, but that we're not even doing that anymore. And
Yeah.
so with meditation, we're practicing this muscle of being comfortable, being quiet and being
Mhm.
still and focusing on just one thing, singular focus, a single point. So
Yeah.
most people assume, just they think they know, it's just the breath. And while the breath is amazing, like, oh wow, I love focusing on the breath, that
Mhm.
doesn't have to be your one thing. That's
Yeah.
totally okay. And that's another amazing myth to bust in meditation, that some people get a lot of anxiety when they feel their breath move. That's not comfortable for them.
No.
So then
No.
we're going to focus on maybe a candle flame. You can keep your eyes open even in meditation
Mhm.
if it
Yeah.
is uncomfortable or alarming or trauma responsive for you, to or trauma triggering for you, to keep your eyes closed. We got to
Mhm.
keep them open, our soft gaze down. Instead of looking at a candle flame, we can meditate on an internal sound of Om, or we can repeat like love on an inhale, exhale, and say peace, love and peace. So while that's
Yeah.
tuned with the breath, we're more focused on the word. And so
Mhm.
there's different ways that we can also incorporate. If you can't sit for even 5 minutes, you can
Mhm.
meditate lying down, you can meditate walking, you can actually be meditative in a meditative state brushing your teeth. So these are
Abs-
little myths that I like to say, okay, you're assuming it's this peaceful, comfortable, woo-woo experience of being in some amazingly calm state, and you see these monks and videos of monks meditating, and they look
Mhm.
perfectly peaceful. And
Yeah.
it's amazing for me that I've studied in monasteries and I've heard a lot of Dharma talks from monks. A
Mhm.
monk started meditating and became a monk when he was 5.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now,
Wow.
we'll say. And he says he still struggles to
Of
bring his
course.
mind back to singular. It still wanders. It still thinks about lunch, or it thinks about chores, or it still wanders. And so
Mhm.
people are so judgmental and critical. Oh, I can't meditate. I can't. My mind, it just goes all over. So does
I know.
everyone else's.
It's just like I know, and we are now all and we all need to help each other. And what amazes me is that we all have these talents, right? All talented from that, in the different angles and in different areas and in different, as I call them, the divine gifts, right? We all have these divine gifts, and the beauty of it is that we can find and choose someone who is resonating with us and who is really can help us to fill that gap, or clean, or fill up the cup that is actually full of blocks and wounds and things, and help to clear up and fill in with something more like love and compassion and kindness and things. But again, we're all different. But what I found interesting, that there's a lot of people that are open right now, because of course the swinging of the emotions are taking people in all different panic attacks, anxiety, all of this depressional state, all the unknown creates so much of the turmoil for people, that people searching and looking, and a lot of people open. But there's also some people who are still saying, I know, well, I've done this or that, I know. So this is not coachable people, right? What do you do with these people? I don't know. I'm just curious, because for me, I'm sometimes hitting that wall of the concept that that person is not open. The cup is full, not in terms of full of goodness, happiness, joy, but full of these external concepts and knowledge, that person is don't have any space, or the consciousness space, to receive new information, to receive new concept, to receive that new fresh wave of looking at themselves. How do you deal with this?
Well, it sounds like that might be an ego thing, right? Like not an actual being full, but a being meeting you with their ego. So I think if a student is approaching me though and wants to learn from me, but isn't receptive, I think
Yeah.
that I love spending time in conversation and just saying, why are you
Mhm.
here? And how
Yeah,
can I help? And
that's
tell
it.
me about what you do know and what are you actually curious about, or what could be true? Or could they
That's
both be true?
yeah.
There's so
Yeah,
many,
yeah, yeah.
these non-dualistic thought patterns. So just seeing
Exactly.
how we can disrupt the thought pattern and maybe widen their perspective a little bit. But I
Mhm.
also am a firm believer of right teacher, right student, right time.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, the right teacher might be perfectly in front of me. And by teacher, I mean
Mhm.
a person who's very rude to me. That's
Yeah.
a teacher too. And so
Yes,
that teacher,
absolutely. We all
yes.
teachers. Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I'm not the right student at the right time, that teacher will be going missed. And so if there's something not aligning, as you said earlier, Larissa, we're at such a beautiful gift of a time and a space where we can connect with
Mhm.
teachers from all around the world and all special modalities with all the divine gifts, as you said. So if there's not an alignment with me and a student, I don't see it as a bad thing. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure there's someone else out there for you. And if you're full and you don't have room, then maybe something will happen in your life when you have more room sooner or later. But I'm happy to talk through and try to shift perspective and widen the area
Mhm.
of possibility or their mindset a little bit more.
Right. Really cool. Yep. So, psychological effects of stress on the body, and the tips, techniques on how to distress and recenter. So we kind of been talking about this, but I would like to ask you to share what is that wild yoga community, right? Wild yoga tribe. This is your online community that's about the teachers that you have the podcast about, or this is more wider kind of members of your tribe? What?
Great question. Great question. Yes. So while that it might feel instinctual to say it's these yoga teachers from around the world, that's absolutely true. But it's also these spiritual seekers or students on the path of yoga and wellness and health as well. So even if someone isn't a teacher, that doesn't mean that they can't be a part of the tribe. And what does that mean? So there's so many opportunities to get to know the teachers or get to know me or learn or have a conversation or connect with on social media. I have these groups and these platforms that are meant to inspire conversation and connection and talks about the methodologies and philosophies of yoga. I also have a Patreon account, which has, private Zoom yoga classes and opportunities to connect with other teachers and downloadables and meditations. I'm on Insight Timer, totally free if anyone wants to meditate with me. I'm on YouTube if anyone wants to do a free class. So there's all these
Mhm.
platforms in different ways. And if any of your listeners want to be a part of this Wild Yoga Tribe, go to my
Yeah. By the
wildyogatribe.com.
way, yes, by the way, I just would like to put your site here.
Ah,
So
thank
this is
you.
this is Lily's website here, and if you just go there, you can find anything you want to know about the Wild Yoga Tribe, about her projects and what she's doing. So I just really recommend you jump on there and check it out. So yeah, I would like also to expand our conversation and really ask you. I always ask my guests about what you can recommend about like 3 points that people that listen to us that they can kind of start to think about, or they expand their motivation or inspiration. What do you recommend to people who are actually right now not in the right place, or who are struggling, who are lost and confused, or who are in the illness crisis? So
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So, my number one would try to take a little time every day or every week for silence. If you can have 5 minutes a day, if it's seated, if it's lying down, if it's walking in nature, that's fine. But the more time you can spend in silence, the more you'll be able to listen to your inner wisdom. And as we opened our conversation with how important it is to connect with your inner voice and listen to your inner voice, that there's no chance you can hear it if you're drowning it out and if you're distracting yourself from yourself. So I would also say a yoga class is an act of silence. You're not speaking. You're listening to a teacher, yes, but you're dropping down and out of your mind and into your body. And that's an amazing way to practice silence as well. So whatever you can do, have a little bit more silence, listen to your heart and your inner voice. Number two would be, if you are at all struggling with stress, I would just encourage you to understand maybe a little bit more about what stress does to your body. If you think, oh, I'm just stressed, I've been stressed for the last month, but that's okay. Or I've been stressed for the last 10 years, that's okay. It's really actually very physically proven by every doctor around the world, basically, that stress is deteriorating every single system and structure in your body. So if you don't know what I mean by that, you're welcome to join me on my website or send me a DM or reach out, but it's very serious. Like, stress isn't something to ignore. So I think that that's a huge point I want to make, is just educate yourself on what stress does to your body. And then, of course, the third tip would be practice and develop these small little rituals, these small 2-minute, 1-minute, 5-minute things that can decrease your stress. As Larissa said, there's amazing practices available, ancient rituals, breathing, even a deep breath for 3 seconds with your eyes closed can be enough. So if you're interested in those tips and techniques as well, reach out, check out my website. I'm launching a course on these quick, small tips of integrating small deregulation techniques in your life, or on social media. I share stuff for free. So hang out with me there. But those are kind of the 3 big ones. The stress is really huge. Understand it, practice and find what works for you. Just a couple little things a day. And then also taking time in silence.
Wow, that's you see, guys, I think I really recommend you, because Lily is working with all these busy people. She knows, and she meets you where you are. So if you have only 5 minutes, she can give you in 5 minutes so many and a deeper understanding, and a deeper little tip for 5 minutes that can actually completely change your biochemistry. You would be amazed how you would feel, at the beginning of your day. Like, just get into her website, look at her resources, and try to get yourself education about what yoga is, and that traditional view of yoga just being on a mat is over. This is past, really. Now it's more about how we can start to learn regulating, right, all the emotions, reactions, and triggers, and stress and things. I also would like to talk about so what is the point of the yoga? Why practice? Why teach? And how you take the yoga off the mat? Yes, we already discussed all of that last question, but again, we kind of doing the same things about yoga. We know how important it is, but I would like you to just cover it again. Why teach? Why do yoga? Why practice it? So, yeah.
Yeah, so yoga is so much more also than people think it is. When we said meditation, people have an idea. Usually people have a good idea of what yoga is. And usually it's like some skinny, white woman in a warrior pose. That's what they're picturing
Yeah.
in their mind. Something, or like someone in a pretzel shape on Instagram with their feet behind their head and in Lululemon clothes. So
Yes.
it's hard. That's a hard thing that we as a society, a culture, and a world have been so bombarded with these posts. So we think we know what yoga is. So
Yes.
as I mentioned earlier, yoga is a path and it has 8 branches, 8 limbs, 8 pathways to follow. And there's also different subgroups under yoga, whether you wish to progress energetically and spiritually through knowledge, jnana yoga, through bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. Like there's so many different elements and ways that you can make the path your own. So what is yoga? Yoga can be a million things. I had an amazing yoga teacher I interviewed from Botswana. She says yoga is a fairy godmother, someone that takes care of her and comes in and changes things like magic. I've heard yoga described as a discipline, like a yoga teacher in Guatemala was saying it's a discipline above all else. I've heard it described as a lifestyle. In Croatia, it was described as a universe, as infinite. So yoga can be anything that you need it to be, but it's not an exercise, and it's not just this physical shape thing either.
Yeah.
So those are what yoga is not. But other than that, if you need yoga to be a de-stressor, if you need yoga to be a way to build a community, if you're new to a city and you're lonely, you don't know how to make friends, yoga can be amazing for that. It's beautiful people, beautiful souls coming together. And so what I mean to say is that's why we practice. It's so that we get what we need out of the practice, while as best as we can honoring the roots and all the teachers that came before us. Because if we are going to dilute it down to being nothing but Lululemon with our feet behind our head, then we're also are losing 99.9% of the history, of the impact, of the influence, of the gifts of the practice. So also, if you're curious about the history, I mean, I have a blog post about it. Get to know yoga a little bit more. What happened? How did yoga start? I actually just published today a blog post on the history of the Women's History Month. It's an honor. So it's a history of women in yoga. So it's a beautiful post and just walks you through how did yoga start and what are the amazing women who have been involved and have influenced the practice around the world since the beginning. So if you're curious, that was a today thing. So happy to share.
Lily, you motivated me. You inspired me to look at yoga again. I mean, it's like it's through my life. I would go and do yoga, and then I kind of subside all the practices a little bit and do different things. But now I'm kind of really curious, and I would like to look at your website and get your resources and read it and light up that curiosity and inspiration again. And thank you for being on my show today and have this very inspiring conversation with you. Helping other people to really get to know themselves a little bit more through different yoga practices, meditation, and all the other little tips that I know you are customizing for each of your client, and you really giving them an expert, or really just from your heart. I don't like the word expert. I like the word like connection and resonation with your heart and what you do and your gift, right? And your gift is for the many. So thank you so much, everyone, to listening to us today. And if you're curious about yoga and if you really would like to know more, Lily is the person to go and find out. Her website is down there. So if you just go there and you will know all the information about Lily. And again, thank you so much. I would like to put a little outro, and you stayed behind the scenes. We're going to chat after. Thank you, Lily. I'll see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. South Australian time zone, and with new amazing guest next week. Love yourself, guys. Thank you. This is this.